First of all, I always thought that breast cancer was a white woman's disease. I didn't know that black women got breast cancer, and that was mainly because all the promotions featured white women. So I just thought, oh, black women don't get this. And then, lo and behold, I was diagnosed with stage 3 advanced breast cancer. I thought after that I finished with the IV and the chemo that I was going to go home. I didn't know I had to take additional not over-the-counter, but prescription drugs. And I went, and it was quite expensive. And I thought to myself, okay, what do poor people do? How do women that look like me, that is less fortunate than I am, how do they make it? How do they find the money to pay for this prescription, take care of their families, cover all their finances? That must be so difficult for them. And then I was at home one morning feeling, terrible after chemotherapy treatment. Couldn't get off the bed. It was terrible. And I thought to myself, okay, I don't want any other woman that looks like me to have to go through this alone. So when I get better, I'm going to do something about this. That started the journey of me and the Olive Branch of Hope.
Hello, everyone. How are you? We're so glad you're here. If you're logging in live, we want you to ensure that this is going to be an amazing evening. We are kicking off the 30 Days of Her Story. Now, let me tell you, I have the privilege of being a moderator and a facilitator for this, and I thank so much to not only Nadia Headley, but to the Olive Branch of Hope for this opportunity to represent them as they go through this amazing journey, helping women to deal with their issues in a most conservative and sensitive way. Now, as always, we have to welcome those who are before us and those who come after us. We want to also respect to the Indigenous and the Black nations that have come before us, and we like to acknowledge that on the land that we sit is from that. So let's jump right in. If you notice that today we're going to be doing a 30-day campaign. So you've seen, if you haven't, share, please follow. Make sure you're following Her Story. Make sure you're following 2114. This is definitely the place that you want to be. Each day, you're going to be able to be inspired by somebody who's lived this, has experienced this, and is bringing it to part. Now, first, let's jump into a few of the facts. So we have the Olive Branch of Hope. They're an amazing group. I just have to take pause on that. And I'm sorry, my hair. Hold on, let me just throw this right back. Okay, here we go. We're back. They started over 20 years ago, and they've been holding a sacred space for especially women of African ancestry. And they've journeyed through this cancer treatment, and they've been thriving through this. The founder has done her utmost to ensure that she's created a safe space, the knowledge, the information, and the resources in order for these women who are going through this journey to ensure that they are feeling secured and feeling loved throughout the process. I want to just wrap in here that we're talking. There's something else I want to add to this really quickly. The name of the founder is Leela Springer, and she is joined by the board and volunteers. We want to thank you for watching, and she's sending out that thanks to you as well. And we'll share this link as we go through the evening so that you can jump right into the conversation if you so choose to. And if there's any questions that you have, if you look to the side of the screen, I'm sure you'll be able to put it into the chat so that we can answer, or the guest can answer the questions for you. So enough of the intros. I'm sure you're excited to hear this wonderful woman that I have on the screen. Not only is she a woman who has gone through this experience, but more importantly, she is the founder of 2114, and she has been doing amazing work supporting the Olive Branch for Hope in many different ways. I've had the opportunity to see her events. I've had the opportunity to see the amazing women she's impacting, and as Miss Jade, the founder of Beautiful Women Society, always in support of another woman who is bringing attention to the things that need to be discussed. So I can't wait to bring to the stage, or hopefully she's on the stage. She's going to come to the stage. I'm new to this platform and I love it. I'm learning so much. But let's bring to the stage Nadia Headley. Give her a round of applause. Snaps, claps, hearts, reaction. Beyond all learning. Talk to us, Nadia. Introduce yourself. Tell us about who you are.
Well, thank you, Miss J. First of all, I'm really appreciative to be sharing this space with you. I mean, we met countably many weeks ago,
Yes.
but just fell into sisterhood right away, and I'm really happy to be here sharing this with you. Um, I am first and foremost an empathetic person, a kind person, a hopeless optimist. And I like saying that because obviously it's an oxymoron. But just to show, optimism is one of those things that can confound you when everything is going absolutely bonkers. When we can hold on to that inner peace, when we have that center, when we carry that joy that's not dependent on our circumstances, when we give ourselves permission to cry and let it suck.
Yes.
It's not about pretending it's not happening, right?
Yeah. 100%.
But at the same time, it's about choosing how we go through it. And so that is a summation of who I am. What I do takes a lot longer. But all the many things that I do focus on promoting social enterprise and how can we bring the nonprofit and the for-profit spaces a little closer to the middle, blur the lines a little bit more because we believe that we should all be doing well.
Yes.
Right? Financially, health wise, family wise, psychosocially, we should be doing well so that we can do good. And so we want to be able to take care of both of those sides of ourselves. And tonight I'm talking about our newest program that we've soft launched recently. That's our Beyond All Learning Limits tutoring program for the children of parentpreneurs.
That's it. It's all about the kids, baby. It's all about the kids. What we got to do, right? We say that there's a great saying. I can't remember who said it, but it's great. A great saying regardless. But they say sometimes we can't mold the future for our youth, but we can mold the youth for our future. So I think this is such a great program that you're launching because it's about that legacy building and that generational wealth, right? It's beyond all.
Love that.
So tell us more about that. Like what's in your opinion, what's the importance of this program to the vision that you've been supporting over the years, I can say, really?
Yeah. So I've been working in education for a really long time. It's one of those things that I've kind of always skirted around. No matter how I tried to get away from it, I always ended up right back in it anyways. And in about 2011, I was awakened in the middle of the night with this idea that just gripped me and would not let me sleep. And it was to be able to provide a high quality but financially accessible tutoring service for children. And so I started looking at gaps that I was seeing, and I created like a little logo and everything. I don't use it now, but the whole point was I stayed up all night and I wrote out this whole plan for a tutoring program.
Right.
And that was over 10 years ago, right?
Wow.
And life happened and I never really made a move with it, but it always stayed with me. And throughout the pandemic, I was tutoring virtually because, I never thought about tutoring children virtually. I always, tutored in person.
Yeah.
So no matter what my business was, I loved tutoring. I loved meeting a child and trying to figure out how does this brain work, right?
Yes.
I never.
And they're beautiful brains, right?
Exactly.
The purity of their mind is
Yes.
so complex yet simple. How they can take a complexity and just simplify it, right? I totally agree with you.
Exactly. So I never conscribe to children are smart or not smart. I believe that every child is intelligent.
Agreed.
And so my job wasn't to tell a parent whether or not their child was smart. My job was to figure out how is this child intelligent, and then work with them based on their individual intelligence. And so throughout the pandemic, I started tutoring virtually, and I thought, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right? Like, why not? Exactly.
And I called a good friend of mine who is also one of the consultants for 2114. And I said, look, I have this idea. I don't know exactly what to do with it. You know, can we give it a try?
Right.
And she said to me, you know, since I met you, you've been talking about wanting to build a school. Why don't you build the tutoring program based on how you'd create the school? And I was like,
mind blown. Look, even the light, it just in that moment, the light came brighter. The light came brighter. I saw it. I saw it. Those who are on live, you saw it with me. It's right there. It was a
it was so, I couldn't believe that these disjointed things in my life had kind of fallen together.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know, it's funny because the dots are always there.
Mm.
Sometimes we're not, because we're so subjective when we're in the project,
Yeah.
that people can see the dots as clear as day. Like, well, why don't you just do and they'll create a star? And you're like, what do you mean a star? I don't see a star. You know,
I see a circle and extra dots. I can't figure out.
I see one big dot. Yeah. No, it's
Oh
true.
my gosh.
Sometimes, like, again, we take some people when they hear something, especially it's complex in our brain because we're thinking of all the moving parts. Yeah. And then someone will hear it and they're like, oh, so you're doing this. And you're like, yeah. In our head, it was a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Carry them over to this, and you know, and they come in and they're just like, oh, so you're drawing a triangle, and you're like, get out of here. Yeah, I am. Yeah, so I hear you 100% with the vision. Now, when you thought about it, did you ever think there was a time where you felt as though your voice was diminished or silenced in this particular, you know, area, right, of the tutoring and whatnot? Did you feel that?
You know, it's kind of, there's more than one way to look at that. There was a long period of me silencing the voice that was calling me. And by extension, silencing my own voice.
Right.
I had always had very strong opinions on education, and I invested a lot of my time studying education. But I never gave myself permission to fully jump in and invest in it.
Yeah.
And
really
so by me,
opportunities. Yeah.
Yes. By me closing off my ear to the voice that said, you have a teacher's heart, you know, your mission, your vision for your life, you know exactly what it is. Stop running from it. You know? So it was, first of all, an act where I could hear the voice, but I was silencing that voice. And by silencing that voice, I silenced my own voice in the process, right? And then, of course, there was facing, you know, the systems that exist. And sometimes as educators, we know exactly what the children in our classroom need, right? We know how to help them. But sometimes we are connected to systems that tell us what we are allowed to do and not allowed to do.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that may mean in order to cater to the masses and to follow the rules and to make everything fit, that we end up not advocating on behalf of some of the children who need something that's different from what's available in the mainstream society. So I've experienced both of those until I decided, well, hot damn, I'm not doing that anymore. Right?
Done. Voice heard. And it's unfortunate because as powerful as you are, and I mean, I can say this because I've gotten to work with you in various capacities, and the level of knowledge, skill, and resources, even things that you're educating me on in terms of, you know, I mean, I worked not for profit for 3 decades. I understand it. I see it. And the thing that really silences the voices of many is the lack of understanding of the system. And some of the systems, especially in the education system, they try really hard to try to stay up to date. But because of the size of these systems and so much complexities in the behaviors and the thought processes and belief systems and all of those pieces, it's hard for parents to keep up with what's evolving, so I really think that this program, it's not just, I think when we think about tutoring, you think about it just being someone who's helping my child get better marks. But really and truthfully, this program is beyond, and I want to stress that, beyond all learning, right? And it's not only just framework, and maybe you could even talk a little bit about it so that they can kind of connect the dots as to what we're trying to promote here on this platform, right? I mean, not only are we here to support the Olive Branch of Hope, but it comes with a level of education. And so, when you say beyond all learning, what are some of those things that parents can really look for in this program that's different from just a regular tutoring program?
Yeah. So at BALL, which is our acronym, Beyond All Learning Limits, first of all, our language is different, right?
Mhm.
So our tutors are called coaches because, like I said, we believe that all of our children are intelligent, and even LeBron needs a coach, right? So it doesn't matter how amazing
Right?
you are.
Call me LeBron. I'm open athletic coach right here, certified. Go.
You got the swoosh and everything, right? It's
Right?
like
You see that?
nothing but
Did you
that.
see that? Did you see that? That's technique right there, though.
Oh my gosh.
Technique right
Jay,
there.
they don't even know that this is just how we are, like on the
It's-
phone. Like this is
I even forgot we're live. I was just about to I feel so comfortable with Nadia. I feel like we could just go back and forth and just be like binging all day. You should see our meeting. One time we had our first meeting and we were working on a couple of projects down the pipe, and we were just going. We turned and looked at the clock and we're like, oh my goodness, and we didn't even see the time fly by. So yeah, and I'm like this. If you are going to be watching me live, I will be here every week for March because I've committed to Wednesdays. I am committed to these women, but by far already, she's hands down my favorite guest. The rest
well,
of
it's
you,
only day one. It's only day one.
yeah, I know. That's why I say by far.
Yeah. Somebody might come and shock us, like,
I know someone's gonna come and be like, I'm just like for the whole interview. Yeah, sorry. Okay, as we digress and
No problem. Yes. So we call our tutors coaches. We call the children leaders. We don't get into the debate between who's a born leader and who, how do you
nurture
learn
versus
leadership.
nature. Mm-hmm.
Yes, we believe that we all have the potential to lead ourselves. Yes. That's the first person that we need to learn to lead. And when it comes to conversations around education, we've all dismissed that, go to school, get your education, get a good job, retire. It's not about that. It's about my growth. Yeah, right. Yep. My growth as a person. What do I need for my life? And, how am I going to get it? And 100%. So it's talking to them as not just intelligent, but as powerful beings, right? That are allowed to make decisions around their studies and their education. And we refer to our parents as partners. So we coach in partnership with our parents so that our leaders have all the tools that they need to excel. And I mean, why we say it's the children of parentpreneurs, right? So parents who are entrepreneurs, just in case.
Down with the lingo. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We understand that as entrepreneurs, we had to undo so much, learning, all these things that were inculcated within us coming up through various systems and through different societies and norms and expectations and all of that. And it has been a detriment to our businesses and our nonprofit organizations, unless we are able to really get granular on the things that are just nagling in the back of our heads, telling us all of what we can't do. And, you think that you this and no more of that. Yeah. And so instead of forcing our children to necessarily be in circumstances where they have to unlearn later, we speak to them the way how you as an entrepreneur need that, that you need to be spoken to, right? Yeah. So you're going to go pay, 5 figures for a decent coach to support you in your entrepreneurship. let's invest that in our children now, right?
1000%.
It's not 5 figures, so don't worry about it. But let's invest that in them now,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And give them the opportunity to build on the mindsets and the behaviors that we are now trying to figure out ourselves.
Yes. And that is the lack of, and it's not lack. I shouldn't say that. I want to say it's the limited and belief systems that our parents had. I speak to this all the time. For those who don't know, Beautiful Women's Society, is really focused around exactly what Nadia does, but for the for-profit side, for personal professional mastery. And it's about skill development. I think a lot of people, and they're like, well, what does that mean? It means that the things that you are failing at is based on skills. Improper decision making, not knowing how to prioritize, not knowing how to organize, not like these are skills that they have never been highlighted to us. And I feel that this beyond all learning is defining or shortening the curve, right? Like, why wait till 20 years and then they're in their 40s and then figuring out financial literacy, figuring out time management, figuring out productivity, and we're trying to negate that, with her beyond all learning. It's really about them getting the information that you didn't get.
Exactly.
Right? Like my parents, I think a lot of our parents did things, and now if we look back, we could say, oh wow, they were entrepreneurs. Right? Like my mom braided everyone's hair and she was collecting the money, but we didn't even think about it that it was just a talent she had. Right? So she just braided hair and she made money. You know what I mean? My dad DJ'd, and so when we started, but we were never taught that this could actually be a business that could have been a viable business. Right? And so I love the fact that you're putting this into that conversation very early in stages. And if we can, we're helping our kids to see that you complement that by going to school.
Exactly.
Right? Like schools is going to bring you, the nooks and crannies, but this is how it fits into the big picture. I love it. So because you brought on something that I want you to expand a little bit more about, and you talked about everyone learns in their own way, everybody kind of articulates in their own way. So how does the idea of writing your own version of your story and taking control of the narrative, like how does that make you feel? Like, how does that make you feel? Because you're taking on a different narrative of education now. You're not looking at it in the standard format, of the satisfactory and above average and excellent, right? I mean, to all teachers, never knock what you do. I just sometimes can't figure out what you're telling me when you're telling me my kids are like, I don't get it. So how does it feel to write that narrative, like in your own version?
Yeah, the funny thing is when we first asked that question in 2021, it was very esoteric. And the weekend after this campaign ended, I finished writing my book. I wrote 6 chapters in 3 days after having 2 chapters for 2 years, right? Because I was so inspired by the responses of the women that we were with at that time. For me, one, I had to take control of the narrative of my own education, right? You come up being bright. That's what we were saying in the Caribbean. Oh, she real bright.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Shine bright like a diamond.
Right? And so, being bright was, it was a compliment, right?
And a curse sometimes.
And a curse.
Think about it, because if your mouth was quick, oh, you're too bright and fierce.
Right. Exactly. Right. And so I was allowed to be bright on paper, but I was not allowed to be bright and have opinions. Definitely not as a little Caribbean girl, speaking when not spoken to, up in big people conversation, right?
Yes.
So,
be seen, not heard kind of.
Exactly. Right. So I needed to make sure that I was taking control of my own educational path. Now, another one of the things that I talk to parents about all the time is really encouraging our young people to connect with themselves, right? And I say that because my educational journey was kind of, interesting, to say the least. So I had it all planned out, had it all figured out. Jay had it written down on paper. It was a solid plan.
Solid.
Leaving Barbados, leaving Barbados to go to New York to become an actuary, to move to the Cayman Islands and make a bucket load of money. And then I was going to stop working at 35, have 3 children, homeschool them until the last one got into kindergarten, and started working again at 43 until I was 55, retire and start a charity. Boom.
Bang. Blueprint.
Bang. Right. None of that happened.
You got me there because I was like, yes, honey, tell me about the victories.
None of that happens, right? Well, except I left Barbados and went to New York to study. I did that part, right?
Okay, so okay. 1 out of 10 in that.
So while I was in my 3rd year of this actuarial program, as a lover of mathematics, you know, in the Caribbean at that time, we had the generation before me, they told everybody to become an accountant. And then we had too many accountants. So my generation, they told us all to become actuaries, and that's what we did, right? And so there I am standing up in this line to, what do you call it? Like the career fair, right? And I just kind of glanced on at my resume, you know, like you give another look over in case you missed a comma or whatever. And I'm just looking down at it, and it hit me that nothing on my resume outside of my classwork had any relation to math, insurance, none of it, finance, none of it.
Yes.
I was raising awareness for this and raising funds for that, and, you know, volunteering and sleeping out with the, you know, and delivering sandwiches to the home. This is what I spent my time doing.
Philanthropic.
And at this point, I'm thinking, all I have, like my one valuable thing I have right now at this age is time.
Yeah.
So if I'm investing all of my time here, what is that saying? What are these decisions that I make independently of one another? What are they telling me about myself?
100%.
And I'm standing in this line, and everybody else is nervous about going to the table, but I start having this epiphany, like this moment where I felt like my body was trembling, and I was like, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Right. And at that moment, I knew it wasn't actuarial science, but I didn't have the answers to what it was. I knew what it wasn't.
Yeah.
And that started a lot of questioning and searching and whatnot. And by coincidence, I came across this master's program in social development, global development, social justice. I started pulling the string, you know, asking more questions, finding more out. And when I finally told my family that I was not going to be an actuary anymore, I had already graduated because I was not about to blow it up before graduation, right?
Actually, really.
My mother was not about to have a fit on the phone. You know?
Tell you would have been excommunicated from Barbados. Yes.
This was not about to go down like this, right? So I did the Caribbean thing. I finished what I started, right? I got the degree and all of that. Went on and did the second one. And it was in the middle of the second degree that I told my family that I wasn't going to be an actuary anymore. Oh, Lord. Well, they still had fits, but at least this time, you know, it was fine. And then I started working at the United Nations, and all of a sudden everybody got it. They're like, oh, okay. So, you know, charity work.
Reputable form.
There we go. Right. Like you can do well and work in nonprofit.
Limiting belief systems, right?
Right.
Limiting
and
belief
so
systems.
I thought to myself, now what if I had the power to write for me what this should be?
Yes.
Right.
What
if because I was volunteering in high school. Right. The things I did in college, I was able to do because I was already doing them. Right.
Yeah. That's good.
You know, this tutoring program, now that I'm when I tell you the Lord is funny, no matter how far you try to run, right?
There's a song that will forever ring true. It's timeless. Memories don't live like people do. They
We
always
always
remember
remember
you.
you. It's
Hello.
true. It
Like,
is so
let
true.
me tell you, there's some real prophecy in reggae now.
I'm
Real
telling
prophecy.
you. Listen, when I was 14 years old at church, we had like this shed outside, right?
Mhm.
So we would come to church from school in our school uniforms and hang out under the shed and do our homework together. And then I realized, well, I would spend the night helping everybody else with their homework, and then I would have to go home and do mine.
Yes.
And the pastor was my primary school principal, and he was very big on education. So our congregation had a lot of scholars and people that went away and studied and came back to Barbados
Right.
and whatnot. So I thought, we got all these smart people that went away and come back,
Yeah.
and all of these children,
Light bulb.
right? So I basically created a free tutoring program at church. And I got
Nice.
all the adults to register and sign up and tell me what subjects they like
Yeah.
to teach. And I got all the children to register and tell me what subjects they needed help in. And I started putting them together. And I
It's
was 14.
grassroots. It's
Yeah.
grassroots, right? And 14. And again, what did we just talk about earlier? The ability, the uncanny ability for kids. And it's because they don't have as much stresses as we do as we get older, right? And so what did you see? Opportunity.
Exactly.
And you manifested how that turned into a business,
Mhm.
but you didn't know it was a business.
I didn't know then. I had
Right?
no idea then.
You see
Yeah.
all of these schools now, big tutoring companies and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And
Yeah.
here you were just doing it for the sake of saying you saw knowledge, you saw people who need to acquire knowledge, and you put it together.
It was just simple, right? It was
That's
just simple. And so there I had, what I didn't know about myself is I had business acumen and a
yes.
nonprofit heart,
But yeah, ooh,
right? And
yes.
so if I had the opportunity to connect with those parts of myself, I could still love math. I didn't have to be forced into the actuary
Mhm.
stream that was being forced down our throats at that
Right.
point in time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I could have, and I mean, look, nothing is lost. We're grateful for the journey, but there's also opportunity cost, right?
Yes.
Every decision we make, we lose
Yes.
out on the benefits of
100%.
another decision, right?
100%. Ripple effect.
Right, exactly.
Ripple
Right.
effect. Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
so, I really wanted to be able to say, I took control of the story of my education, right? I didn't flunk out of school once I had this moment, this epiphany that said, this is not your path. I stopped crying when I wasn't passing my actuarial exams because they were clues that I was going in the wrong
Wrong
direction,
direction.
right?
I
And
always
so
say no just means next opportunity.
exactly. And
Mhm.
so I not only wanted to take control of the narrative of my educational desires going forward and being
Mhm.
very choosy with where I invest my time and what knowledge I absorb, but then I want to empower children to be able to do that. I want to empower parents to divest their power and give their children the opportunity to say, this is who I am and this is how I want to show up in the world. Mom, dad, auntie, granny, this is the help that I need from you to do that.
Which leads us to our final question that definitely speaks to. So we talked about the voice, we talked about the version, right? We talked about the vision, right? And so the last piece that we want to wrap up with is on victory. We always love to leave the stage with this concept because people tend to leave the room sometimes with negativity. I say to my clients, and I'll give you a little bit more about myself as we wrap up, because I realized when I introduced, I was so excited to get into this that I didn't even say who I am. So we'll get there, but don't worry about it. I'll be here all week. Well, not all week, but next week and the week after. My last question for you is, what is the imagery in your mind when you hear the term victory, and how do you apply that to all that you've kind of shared with us this evening?
Yeah. I mentioned in my book, Embracing the Valley, that I had this really terrible relationship with winning, right? I was a junkie when it came to
Mhm.
winning. And so victory for me was about the conquer, right? Like it was about standing on the mountain. It was about,
Mm.
winning the fight and having the
Rocky.
scars. And yeah, right? And it was this very masculine understanding of victory, right?
Ooh,
And
love
yeah,
that.
right, because it's
Love
war,
that.
it's
Yes.
and
It's a man's
you know,
world.
and I know you're into sports. I am an
Yes.
extremely competitive person naturally. I mean, even a cards game, right? Like,
Girl, wait
give
till
me
I have you over for
space.
games night. It's a problem. I'm ready. Me and my girls, we go hard in the paint when it comes to competition.
I'm
Hard, like
telling you, right? I
hard.
had this natural drive to, be the winner. And in time, that really started to change. I remember I was working with this group in New York. I ended up on the education committee. Who knew?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and somebody said, we want to dismiss the idea of competition, and I got offended. I was like,
Straight up.
"Hey."
This meeting is over.
Right? I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, a little bit of competition at least is healthy, right? Like that's how
Yes.
you get better.
Yes.
And then their response was something I was completely floored by. Like you said, it was complex and simple all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
She said, no, why would you compete against another when you could never be that other person? The only person you compete against is yourself.
1v1, baby.
Right. So you're
1v1.
competing today to be better than you were yesterday, and you're competing tomorrow to be better than you were today. And I thought, holy crap, I've had this thing wrong the entire time.
Yeah.
Right. And so victory for me started to become, when am I at peace? When am I no longer fighting?
Fighting. Love it.
That became my definition of victory. When am I calm? When am I whole? When is my love pure and untainted and requiring nothing in return?
Mm.
When am I connected to who I am, to where I'm going? When do my words match my feelings? When are
Yes.
my thoughts congruent with, with my speech? This is where I see myself being victorious. And then it stopped victory from being a moment
Mm-hmm.
and welcomed the opportunity for victory to be life.
A lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle. And I mean, girl, you're echoing. You're getting all of these today. You're getting all of this today. Why am I excited about hearing what she's talking about is because that's my philanthropic view. My philosophy on life is skills. It's winning, and it's against you. It's about taking action, right?
Yes.
When I designed Beautiful Women Society, it was on the premise of putting yourself first, because as women, we're great superheroes. We can bing bang fight crime,
Turn
leap buildings,
invisible,
and
see through walls, hear
can't
our
even,
children's
you can't even
thoughts.
see me right now. I'm back. Right? But we do that single bounds. You know what I mean? I mean, shoot, you see your kid running towards the street and you're at the door. Let me tell you, you're done. Pick the kid up, fly, took the truck, put it over there, come back and be like, listen, or they don't go in the street again. You know what I mean? Like, that's how we're good like that. But
Yeah.
by doing that, we neglect our secret identity. So I always say, as superheroes, we neglect our secret identity. And that victory doesn't become our victories. It becomes the victories of those that we serve, everyone else's, right? The kids are happy and fed. The husband's happy and fed. The extended family knows they can call you for anything, and work knows they have, you're going to produce at high levels. If you're running a business, you're giving it all. And you forget about nurturing this, your heart, your mind, right? So when I designed Beautiful Women Society, it was around that. Being a coach for well over decades, working in the municipal sector for 30 plus years, helping people to become better versions of themselves. And I realized that when you stop doing it for you, then you really can't help somebody. It's like someone broke telling you how to be rich. Let's get it together.
Honestly though, but those are usually the ones who have all the all
They have
the
all the secrets, but they're never there, right? And a lot of it is because of action, you know. And so I really focus on developing the knowledge, skill, and capacity through a lens of personal, professional, and business mastery. Because at the end of the day, it's the things that we do every day that we need to continue strengthening. It's not something you got to come and learn. You make decisions every day, but how do you learn to make better decisions, right? You organize things every day, whether it's an appointment here, this one needs pants, this one needs to go to school, this one needs an appointment, right? But how do you create it that organization creates productivity versus just running in circles on a treadmill, you know, every day? So everything that you're saying is resonating to, you know, this whole conversation of what's your vision. Like, ladies, what is your vision? What's your voice? Where is, you know, your version? What's the version of your story? And not the version of just the, oh, woe is me. You know, a lot of what you said today resonated this, that if it doesn't feel right, question it. Find what fits, because when you find what fits, it's no longer work. It's just the passion to, and you're running towards that, Victoria. So you want the skills to be more, to win the game, right? I'm a heavy believer in competition. Why? Because competition doesn't celebrate mediocrity.
That's right.
Right. So if you got your 15th place ribbon, at least you worked harder than the 30th person. Right. So it may not be 1, 2, 3, but even if you were, you know, 5 out of 10 or 9, you know, like, you are winning in some capacity. Where can you do better to get better? Love where you're going with this, ladies and gents. If you're listening and you're tuned in, if you're not, I'm sure this will be on the page, the Facebook page for you.
Yes, please. It's on the HERstory Facebook page. It's on the Olive Branch of Hope's Facebook page, and it's on the HERstory YouTube page. And before you go on, Miss J, I just want to share that one of our monthly challenges for our leaders.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the drip, honey. Yes, honey. Look at that. Look at that. Do y'all know what that is? Let me point that way. Do y'all know what that is? Thank you so much. Yes.
We want to make sure that our children in the program, our lovely leaders, have a chance. Is that you?
Oh, yes. Why she look so fly though?
Right? No, yes, girl. We want them to get this calendar and be able to follow. It's too bright in here. Follow the steps that will help them to plan their goals out and complete their milestones and celebrate themselves and really begin to encourage themselves. And for those of us as adults who are like struggling to define a goal properly, what's a SMART goal? What's a dumb goal? What are goals? Why do I need them? Why can't I just say I want to do this? I wish I could, right? What is that about? Like, so many of us as adults, we're still struggling with these concepts. Yes. So we want to make sure
it's concepts. When I designed that calendar, you know, a lot of people are like, well, why don't you put it on an app? I said, name how many apps you have on your phone right now. And you're still broke, busted, and disgusted. Let's just put it out there. You got all the apps in the world, but one app trumps another app.
Exactly.
So if I have something like, I'm just going to go old school. Here is something you can put up. You literally wake up and see it on your wall.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And you have the ability to create the plan and set the journey in motion, reflect and review. And then at the end, celebrate. It's so important to celebrate. And so DRIP, as you saw in the beginning of the calendar, stands for drive, resilience, innovation, and progression. So what I do is create drip queens, right? It's not about testing your knowledge. It's about telling you how to apply your knowledge, how to increase your skill sets, and how to increase your capacity. Because if you can do that, then this potential is unlimitless.
Exactly.
It's like literally unlimited. You can do anything you want. Because why? It's within your power to do so, right? 100%. So, you know, if you're very strong in finance, or you're very strong in basket weaving or river dancing, be the best that you can be at it.
Exactly, right? Exactly. And you know what, Miss J, that exactly what you're saying now is what we saw in the video at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Right? Miss Leela Springer, she was going through a circumstance herself. Mm-hmm. Right. And she had a question, but what happens to other women who look and sound like me, who may not be able to come here and make this purchase right now? Yeah. And then she thought, well, I have to do something about it. Mm-hmm. Right. And like you talked about, all these skill sets that are there, she started pulling on what was already there. to
It's
say,
all there.
yeah.
It's just buried because we've gotten so good at not putting ourselves first. We've gotten good at the word sacrifice. We got good at the word persevere, right? In our my hoops program, which is my basketball side of coaching, hoops stands for outwit, out hustle, outlast, persevere and sacrifice, right? And so when you sacrifice for your dream and you persevere through adversity, you come up with that level of drive, resilience, innovation, and progression. So, it all leads down. And when she spoke earlier in the video, that was innovation coming to par.
Yes.
Right. That was, and the olive branch of hope is really around delivering that message that, this space here is not just for you to feel warm and inclusive, but to challenge everything that's happening to you and still come out positive and smiling, so it's crazy. You're on that. Jeez, very powerful. Very powerful. These conversations are needed. But I think one of the things that Nadia and I really want you to push forward is to not just listen to this conversation and say that was great. We don't want likes and hearts and stuff. Okay, you want to give it to us? We'll take it. But that's not why we're here. We're here to incite action.
That's right.
Incite action. We're here for you to learn about the women that you're going to be meeting throughout the next 30 days have a story. Right? So come and hear the story, and not just to hear it to say, oh girl, so proud of you. No, hear it to say that something resonated with me and I'm going to take action on that.
I got to do something.
I got to do something. Put it in your journal, write it, reflect.
Right.
Reach out to Nadia. If you're there, reach out to Miss J. We're here to help you. And we have a lot of background doing what we do.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, I've always told people, whatever I train you on is what I've succeeded at. I'm not going to train you how to cook because I can cook to survive, but I'm no chef, right? So, you know what I mean? Okay, so we're almost at the hour mark. I want to close off, though. Is there anything else that you want to add before I close off this amazing interview?
No. Well, I want to say that we decided to focus on supporting the Olive Branch of Hope. And our focus for the year is to be able to provide lymphedema devices for women who are living with lymphedema now after their treatment. And 30 Days of History has been in March for Women's History Month, Women's HERstory Month for us. And I only found out today that March is also Lymphedema Awareness Month.
Well, looky here. We're killing it.
I would like to pretend that I orchestrated that perfectly, but
don't let her fool you. She's undercover brilliant. She's bright. You're bright. Yeah, no, she knows what she's doing. I when I first went to the event and I heard of the lymphedema piece, and I didn't realize it was such an impact. Like, my mother died of cancer, bone cancer at that point. And that's really the only cancers we kind of knew, right? Prostrate, this cancer. But the lymphedema threw me for a whole loop. And so learning more about it, and, I'm 1000% behind the education component of this. And more importantly, if you do have $5 to put it towards the things that Nadia is doing to help the Olive Branch of Hope secure the things that these women need, right? Maybe you can tell them a little bit about that in terms of, so they can understand it a little bit more. I don't want to do it and serve it disjustice.
All right, sure. So really quickly, and especially since we're here on the first night, I just want to share, like, I also developed lymphedema after my lymph nodes were removed. 14 lymph nodes were removed and only one had cancerous disease in it. Because so many lymph nodes were removed, the liquid that normally runs through our bodies to cleanse us, it doesn't know where to go. So it gets trapped in the muscle where it doesn't belong. And so these compression garments help to force the liquid through the parts of the body where it gets confused into where other lymph nodes can then send it to where it needs to go. These devices, this one was like $150, and it's very, my case is mild. And so they get more expensive the more compression you need. It could be your arm. You can get pooling in your back, pooling in your torso, right? All dependent on where the fluid is trying to get to and where it's getting confused. And so it causes a lot of pain. I'm extremely dependent on this. If I get in my car and I drive about 5 minutes and I'm not wearing it, I have to come back home.
Wow.
I'm
That's
really
sensitive,
dependent on it. Yeah. I can't write. I can't text. I can't type on a keyboard without this on. Right.
Wow.
Yeah. It's very, very painful. And so, you become dependent on it. You have to change them frequently to maintain the level of compression that you need. And so it can be quite costly. And there was a time where I had to hold on to my one sleeve, and it wasn't compressing anymore, but that's what I had. And so thankfully, now that I'm in a position where when I need to, I can buy 2 at a time, 3 at a time if I need to. But I want to be able to support other women who are in that situation. And there are other nonprofit organizations that can come along to help. We're the only one that we're saying this is for women of African ancestry and African descent. We're looking at the social determinants of health that prevent women from our communities from accessing the care that others might say, well, it's free, right? But what if you're a newcomer, right? What if you have been in the country for years and you don't have status?
Yeah. And these things they're not covered by, are they?
Most insurances don't cover them. You can get assistance from the government, but that is a process. You have to be able to pay upfront and then wait 12 weeks for your reimbursement.
Wow.
Right. And so some people, it's pain or food.
Yeah.
Right? Pain management or food. Right.
Yeah.
We have a comment here, and we have a friend of ours reminding us, thank you, Asanti, that when you go to the link here at the bottom, www.heysisterherstory.ca, that you can purchase merch. Right up at the top, we have specialized merch. It has the olive branch.
Did you put it back up? I think it went back.
It's right. Yeah, it's right here scrolling at the bottom. www.heysisterherstory.ca.
Okay.
And you can purchase merch to be able to support the Olive Branch of Hope. So everything we do for the year, we'll be giving a donation to the organization for this specific purpose. But then this special collection of items that we've co-designed with them, we're giving them extra out of that. So please go ahead, go to the website so you can make your purchase there.
Love it. Can you say amazing, people? Can you just say it out loud so she can hear it? Amazing. So I'd like to thank you as the owner of HERstory and the first guest. I'm winning, people. Look, I'm interviewing the CEOs, the EDs. That's what Miss J does. What she does.
You're Oprah tonight.
I'm Oprah, honey. You get a sleeve and you get a sleeve. That's what I want to do. So come on, please, just donate and buy 2 things and let me feel like Oprah so I can hand out the sleeves, man. Jeez, come on, work with me here. I want to thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. I think it was something, again, I've learned so much more about you after today. I mean, I've heard pieces of your story, but I get to hear fresh new gems, and I'm loving it. I want all of you to remember to visit the Her Sisters right there at the bottom. Hey, sister, herstory.ca, and purchase any of the co-branded items that you see. And because you're purchasing these items, anything or the extra pieces will be going. Those funds are going to be going towards the Olive Branch of Hope to help to get these sleeves, these compression sleeves. Now, we've heard of compression socks, we've heard of compression tights, but they were saying it's to circulate. But for someone who has lymphedema, this is a life-saving piece because it gives them the ability to live. something that we take for granted sometimes when we don't have those, problems. Like I no longer can complain about look a backache and look a knee aches because I can still hobble around and get things done, right? But for somebody who's literally crippled by the pain of this disease, it's not
It's
something.
quality of life, right?
Quality of life, you know what I mean? So if you don't want to purchase anything, please still feel free to donate. Every dollar counts, right? And we're being very real about it. I mean, I'm done hearing, the little African children, taking donations, because Africa's a rich country. There was something that was said on a TED Talk that really, they said, why is it that a country of the richest resources is still being portrayed as third world?
Right.
And so, let's move the money away from these pieces and into people who live right here in our homes, in our communities, who are looking for this support. Listen to the word, the olive branch of hope. The olive branch. That's, I think, where we need to really key in on. This organization is putting out that olive branch and saying, listen, don't despair. You won't have to choose between eating and functioning. We want you to do both. And so they're really putting it all out there. If we can get a sleeve, let's try to keep updated. We'll try to keep you updated as to how many sleeves we are getting. If you are a bowler, and I'm talking that you make money and that you could be buying dinner on a regular basis, remember, one dinner could be half of a sleeve for somebody, right? And if you're feeding a family of 4, that's a whole sleeve, right? So let's help our women. Let's help our women, especially those of African ancestry, to function at the highest level that they possibly can. To Nadia, thank you. I'm honored to be part of this project. I'm honored to be interviewing you and being able to interview all these amazing women. I definitely have so much more to learn about lymphedema and the effects that it has. And I can't wait to share some of the stories of the women who are living with this, this. And I hate to say things like disease and stuff, with these abilities. I like to say things like that, right? It doesn't stop her from being great just because she has lymphedema. It makes her even better because she recognizes the gratitude of waking up every day and getting it. So all you women out there who are not facing these types of challenges, don't take it for granted. If there's anything she showed me throughout her journey, and just the reverence that people paid to her at the event, was women who were saying thank you for giving them a voice and telling their story. And so thank you for being on here. I look forward to seeing what comes of this, and I look forward to being through this whole journey, and for you and I to continue working together and to bring more awareness to such a worthy cause. And to those who don't know about the Olive Branch for Hope, Google it, get into it.
Yeah.
I mean, we already gave you enough links. Stop being lazy. Google this. Google that one. Google that one for yourself. Right? All right. I'm Ms. J, founder and flight strategist for Beautiful Women Society, here on the 30 Days of Her Story. I'll be back next week. Wednesday, we have different facilitators happening different days. So, I mean, I know you want me every day, like a TED Talk. I'll be here all week, but I'll be here all month. So there's other amazing facilitators who are going to be on here interviewing other women. So the stories will be changing and ever so progressing. We want to thank you for being with us and taking this hour out to hear us live, talking about some of the important topics that are affecting our women today. And we look forward to hearing or seeing you tomorrow as you join another session and you hear another story, right, of the vision, the voice, the version, and the victory. I'm Ms. J. This is Nadia, and we will see you soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
First of all, I always thought that breast cancer was a white woman's disease. I didn't know that Black women got breast cancer, and that was mainly because all the promotions featured white women. So I just thought, oh, Black women don't get this. And then, lo and behold, I was diagnosed with stage 3 advanced breast cancer. I thought after that I finished with the IV and the chemo that I was going to go home. I didn't know I had to take additional prescription drugs. And I went, and it was quite expensive. And I thought to myself, okay, what do poor people do? how do women that look like me, that is less fortunate that I am, how do they make it? How do they find the money to pay for this prescription, take care of their families, cover all their finances? That must be so difficult for them. And then I was at home one morning feeling, terrible after chemotherapy treatment. Couldn't get off the bed. It was terrible. And I thought to myself, okay, I don't want any other woman that looks like me to have to go through this alone. So when I get better, I'm going to do something about this. That started the journey of me and the Olive Branch of Hope.